today we want to teach you a bit about the time when we can actually travel again. We absolutely recommend traveling to Japan. And as this might be a bit overwhelming, especially on the first time, we got a very special guest for that who can teach us a bit on how to prepare properly, what to expect, about secret tips, how to improve your stay in Japan and your journey. So I would like to welcome Karen to our fun stream. Hello, Karen.
Moin moin! Hi Fisky, hi DigiKomi. Hi everybody.
I'm glad to have you here. To have you give a short introduction, Karen is a German vampire VTuber, but she's also has also been and lived in Japan before. She speaks Japanese fluently, I would say. And
I'm not sure about that.
yeah, almost. But you teach people a lot about Japan. You have a big knowledge about Japan, definitely, and that's why we can learn from you a lot. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much. Yeah. Oh my god, where do we even start? It's a huge topic.
Maybe shortly also introduce yourself a little bit first before we stop and get into the topic. Who are you? What do you do? And how can people find you?
Hi, sure. Yeah. Well, you already introduced me a little bit. I'm Karen, whatever. Any way you want to say it is fine. I'm a member of the German VTuber group Pitapat, and I had my debut in January of this year. I mostly do German language streams about all things Japan. So, like, I have a little Japanese class. I have like a Japanese culture get together. But I can also like respond in English and Japanese, so any any language is welcome in my streams. I stream on YouTube exclusively. I think we have a command in the chat with my links.
I think so too. I hope so.
Yes. So if you're, I think I saw it earlier. So if you're curious, please feel free to stop by. And I am hoping to have more English streams, maybe do a German class for the English speakers, because I've seen, with the rise of German VTubers, I've seen a lot more people say that they would like to study a bit of German to support our streams. So if any of you English viewers want that, please be sure to let me know, because then we can probably make it happen.
Oh, I like that.
But today is about Japan. So I've been to Japan a lot of times. I've lived there for a bit. How many times? I don't even know. So Fisky and I already had a German stream where we were talking about our travels to Japan, all the experiences that we had. So I think maybe today can be a great way to bring that to the English viewers, because I think a lot of you guys are interested in Japan, traveling there, maybe once everything calms down a bit. So I hope we will get to share some useful information, maybe some fun memories, and answer all of your questions.
Yes. Also, in this panel, I can also actually include some questions of the chat. I will keep an eye on the chat. So if there's any interesting questions coming up, I will try to implement them here in this talk as well. If I skip something or miss something, I apologize in advance, but I will try to keep an eye on the chat as well and to include you in this panel a bit more. After all, we want to teach you, and if you have any questions, let us know. So, how many times have you been to Japan? Or is it too often to
I remember we got that question on our stream together, and we weren't quite sure. I think it was like 8 or 9 times or something.
Yeah.
Maybe.
For me, I think maybe 7 times, or but
something like that. Yeah. I think around the 5th or 6th time, you just kind of stop counting.
But awesomeness doesn't stop. Like, okay, maybe the first time I went to Japan was still everything very overwhelming in the most positive way possible. That calmed down later on a little bit, but with each time, I actually appreciated Japan as a country and Japanese people as the people even more. How about you?
Yeah, I think the first time I went to Japan, it was like, wow, a dream come true. And that's why it kind of kept feeling like a dream. But on like all the subsequent trips to Japan, I started getting to know more about, the reality of it. Like not in a bad way. It's just kind of when you get there for the first time as like a fan of anime, Japanese culture, and all of that. It's just so magical.
Yes.
And then, the more you get to know everything, then you kind of start being able to maybe connect with the people more, and you start finding out more about, non-tourist spots, and just, you start discovering a lot more cool little niche things, is what I'd say. So it keeps getting better. The magic kind of fades, but it just gets better.
I totally agree. I mean, first time was for me kind of interesting experience that you actually have a lot of anime style graphics all over the place. Like we don't know that really from Germany, not at all. And then we have like signs in the city or just general magazines that are not actually manga magazines or something like this, but still you've got advertisement in anime style aesthetics. So it's kind of a common thing there, and I love that so much in so many ways, because kind of felt like, well, it's still a little bit of anime overall. Not everywhere, of course, but still it's at least more often than we got it here in Germany, I guess.
It's also like, even outside of like anime and manga, it's there's this kawaii culture of sorts. So even when it's not really about being anime, like there's a lot of advertising that has like very cute characters, and like more in the bigger cities, of course, but it's just it's a very like colorful, happy place in a lot of ways, when you look around. So that's like Tokyo or Osaka, for instance. So that's still pretty fascinating compared to Germany, which is very how do I put this?
Boring? No, wait. What? Maybe a bit gray sometimes, the way our
Yeah,
cities are
yeah.
designed. And then Japan is, at least in this regard, a bit more colorful. After all, there's not too much, green areas. For example, in big city hubs, there's not too many trees and parks around, or there are many regions without. But that's more prevailing here in Germany. But at least it kind of gets made up with cute graphics.
That's true. Like, depending on where you go, but definitely like Tokyo, especially places like, I don't know, Shibuya, Shinjuku. It's an experience.
Absolutely. So, which regions have you visited so far?
So I'm definitely a Kansai kind of person. I haven't traveled as much as I kind of wanted to. As in the variety of places I've been to, but like definitely Kansai. I love Osaka. I love Kyoto, and just the Tokyo area, of course. So, I guess also because there's just a lot of things to do there. You can just go there a lot of times, and there's still gonna be new stuff to explore. So that's mostly where I've been. Like, yeah, Kansai and just the greater Tokyo area.
So you've been to a lot of cities then, but also to a few maybe more rural areas?
Yeah, I did once like drive. I think that's around like 3 hours outside of Tokyo, to a place called Nasushiyobara, which has like amazing hot springs, like onsen and everything. So that's an experience I would definitely recommend, especially if you have a little bit of Japanese knowledge, because it's easier to actually talk to the people and like discover a bit more of the culture, more so than just if you go to like tourist spots in Tokyo, for example.
Yeah. That's good. So, do you prefer the cities more or the rural areas more, like landscape-wise, for example?
That really depends. Like, I think in general, I'm more of a city type of person, and that's of course because I can't deny that I'm an otaku. I love going to like I
Do
love
not
going
say.
to. I'm sorry for just dropping that here. So I love, going to arcades. I love going to like anime collaboration cafes and stuff like that. But every now and then I like to just calm down, and for that I think more, smaller towns with like an outdoor onsen and stuff like that. That is just such a different type of feeling. Sometimes I need that, but in general I'm a city kind of person.
City person. So what? And an otaku girl. So I'm shocked. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, we all otakus here. We are DigiKomi and we are doing VTubing
I
stuff.
hope so.
Even Mary just said, well, all VTubers are also anime fans, so there we have that. If I consider, I've also been there mostly to the regions of Tokyo so far, and of course visited Kyoto and a place like Osaka, which is, by the way, I think Osaka is really underrated in many regards, because when you think about the like shopping for anime and manga stuff, then you go to Akihabara or Harajuku or Ikebukuro, of course, which is, by the way, Ikebukuro is my favorite city part of
Ikebukuro is great.
Tokyo, because it's kind of like Akihabara, just in calmer, and I love Otome Road. But I've also been to like places like Takamatsu, or like some of the islands like Naoshima, places like Naruto, not the anime, there's actually a village called Naruto, which is actually also very important for the German and Japanese relations, but maybe I will get a bit into that later too. We're learning stuff here. And after all, I've been more to cities so far. Also, by the way, to Okinawa, which is also an amazing place, which I will gladly talk a bit more later on. However, I think I started to prefer the rural places a bit more, because I've seen the cities so often, I think, right now, that I really want to discover more of the, well, Japanese landscapes, the smaller villages. Maybe it's a bit more difficult to go around there, but it's a great experience, I would say.
Yeah, I think it also depends on like why are you going to Japan? Like there's a lot of reasons to want to go to Japan. So I would say, I guess, if it's like a first time visit, it's probably a good idea to, stay in a bigger area like Tokyo or Osaka, Kyoto, something like that. Because it will be easier to get around without actually speaking Japanese. But, if you're studying abroad or something, I think it can be really worth trying to go for like a school that's a bit more outside, because you will kind of force yourself more to go out and use your Japanese. So really, like, think about why you're going to Japan. Can make a big difference, like what's maybe a quote unquote better place to go.
Indeed. I mean, if you want to go shopping, then yes, Tokyo, yes.
Let's go to Tokyo.
Yes. And also maybe visit some other places, but then you might want to spend more time in Tokyo, I guess. But if you want to, discover like some fancy, cool islands, like, I don't know, get around the Cat Island, Rabbit Island, stuff like this, or also Naoshima, an island about modern art. I'm dumb. I don't know anything about modern art, but even I was really able to appreciate this island and kind of open my eyes a little bit. So there's so many aspects in Japan that we can discover, which I would say the first advice that we can give is do indeed focus on what you want to see when you go there for the first time. Then more likely than not, you might want to come back anyways.
Probably.
So then there's still a lot to discover on your next visits, because if you just try to get the whole country in like 2 or 3 weeks, well, that would be muzikashi, ne?
For sure. Yeah, and it's I don't know. I like letting people, I think people should take some time to try and explore things on their own. Like if you have too much of a schedule, like, oh, I have to go to this place and that place and that place, it can get a little hectic. And sometimes you might really discover something cool completely out of nowhere that no one on the internet talks about. So that's always a pretty good experience.
I just considered like one thing when we reached to Tokyo, that they're like actually districts for everything. And I remember one district just being about where you can buy fabrics, like whole district, and you could buy all kinds of fabrics to start sewing. Maybe for cosplays this would be amazing, but actually it was also about traditional fabrics or more modern style ones. It's a whole district. Just like we know Harajuku, like for Japanese fashion, we know Akihabara for anime and otaku goods and merch, and maybe the older ones among us remember Nakano Broadway, that that's also an experience for itself. Have you been to Nakano Broadway on your travels?
I have not actually.
Ah,
I have
it's
not. I'm sad.
it's well, it's a fun experience because it's Nakano. I think was the or Nakano as a district of Tokyo, not like um, the city. Um, it used to be kind of the otaku hub, like a couple of decades ago. So there's like
Mhm.
this huge shopping center, Nakano Broadway, but everything mostly moved over to Akihabara and maybe Ikebukuro over the time. So it's kind of like out of time uh, shopping complex, which is partially a
Mm.
bit empty. There's still stuff, still shops going on, but it's a different experience, most certainly.
Mhm.
Than, but I would recommend to have to do that once because it's actually fun like this. A bit creepy, but a good way. Good way creepy.
Yeah, there's always something to do. Like running out of things to do is not going to be one of your problems. It's the opposite. Like
Absolutely.
how do you make the most of like 2 weeks in Japan or something maybe?
Do you have a favorite place to go to? Like some place that you always come back to? Um,
So because I'm very, very partial, like biased towards Osaka. Actually, so like the big Osaka main station has. I'm not sure if like what it looks like right now because obviously I have not really been able to travel. But there's just this giant entrance with like this big staircase leading up to it, and when you go down, there's like this tiny. There's just a small area where you can, sit in the morning, just like put your feet in cold water, and I just love being there in summer and having my breakfast there. It's
oh,
it's really weirdly specific, but I love the feeling that it gives me. And just generally Osaka is such a great place to me. But I think that one spot, that's probably my favorite.
oh, I like it. It is indeed very specific, but in a very positive way because this is exactly the things that I would like to yeah educate people about. That you might, if you plan your travel to Japan, like you go to what kind of certain cities, but also definitely make a plan ahead to go to certain places. For example, let's say if you want to go to or visit a spot which was featured in some kind of anime, which is actually also I think many people do nowadays.
Mhm.
Fun fact: there's in our mix-up world even a booth of the um, Anime Tourism Bureau. There's like a sole bureau which is kind of gathering information about places in Japan that went by as a reference for anime backgrounds, places,
Mhm.
and you can actually find out lots of interesting places in this regard. So being specific in your planning and not just I will go to Kyoto and I will see what I'm going to do when I'm there because you're gonna get overwhelmed. Then you will find out about all the things you want to do, and there will never be enough time. So definitely plan this ahead. Would you agree on that?
Um, yeah, I think like I was saying earlier, I think you might want to have a good balance of planning ahead, but also giving yourself some breathing room. So you're not just constantly traveling. Like there was one time where I planned to go to so many places, and I was just constantly, going from one town to another on the night bus and everything. And it was very exhausting. So I think after a while, I just came to certain, like I arrived at certain places and I was just so tired to the point where I wasn't enjoying them as much as I could have.
Oh,
Um, so definitely, like especially if you're new to traveling, you might be a little jet lagged. You don't really have to worry about delays on the train, so that's a good thing. Shout out to the Germans out there; they know what I'm talking about. Um, and so just a little bit of everything. Don't plan out every hour of your day, but get some idea of where you want to go probably, because otherwise it might be um how do I put this? Like especially if you don't really speak Japanese or anything, you might feel really lost when you're just arriving in Tokyo because it's or any other city because like okay, where do I start?
indeed, indeed. Ah, like And also, some things really need preparation. Maybe if you, for example, want to eat out at a certain restaurant, like okay, this is more like the fancy side, but I was, for example, one time invited to a um just okay, I'm gonna talk about it because it's a very specific but also quite unusual experience. I got invited to a Michelin star restaurant in Kyoto, which is kind of, I mean, food culture is already huge in Kyoto. Like insanely high quality restaurants are there already. And then among those, there are, for example, special restaurants who have 1, 2, or 3 Michelin stars. And for those, you definitely need to reserve a spot way ahead, because maybe those restaurants only have like 10 seats, or like 10, like not more. There's just 10 seats available, and once they're gone, they're gone. And so
Right.
a spontaneous visit might be very challenging. And if you really wanted to kind of try out in kaiseki style, wait, did I pronounce it correctly? I kind of forgot the word. Like special dishes in your area, then please plan those ahead. This might be very important, and then you can have really enjoy a very unique experience, whatever that might be. Maybe a museum, like Ghibli Museum, for example, also a very popular attraction. Have you visited it ever so far?
I have not. I don't know how I've missed it so far.
It's definitely a recommendation. It's but you also have, for example, to get your tickets in advance. It's a bit tricky. You gotta get them at the, or you can get them at the convenience store, for example. So, but it's also stuff that it's the tiny things that you might have to plan ahead, or at least be aware that it takes time to plan them, and so you don't miss out or get busy, and indeed have a less optimal stay for your time then.
Like, since you mentioned restaurants and stuff, so even if it's not really a special type of restaurant or anything, depending on when you go out to eat, for example, you might have to just wait in line for a bit, especially in like around a big station or something, because so many people like go to pick up lunch around the same time. So if you're on holiday, it might be smart to just switch up your schedule a tiny bit. So like, don't go for lunch at 12 or 1 p.m. or something, but like a little earlier or a little later. That can really save you a lot of time.
That's good to know. That's good. So please, chat, please take many notes so you can have a great time over there in Japan. And well, if you're talking about restaurants, gotta talk about food. We can. In the last talk, it was also became one of the main topics. But I promise you that, dear chat, if you go to Japan, and you will love many things, but chances are that you will love the food the most, because it's so diverse and has such a great quality wherever you go. Your favorite food? Tell me about it.
Probably okonomiyaki, curry rice. I don't. One of those. I'm very, I'm very biased towards Osaka as usual. So true Osaka okonomiyaki is just, my God, I could go for that right now.
Ehrenvampir. Well, at least you're a person of honor, because yes, there's a person of taste, because okonomiyaki, especially in Osaka. Osaka has a great food culture and overall, but I love okonomiyaki, so
yes.
I underline that.
It's like, where do you even start? I love Japanese curry. I love sushi. I love ramen. I love everything. It's just
Tempura.
It's incredible.
Tempura.
Takoyaki.
Yeah. Takoyaki, indeed. So this is maybe another recommendation. If you are in for Japanese food, if you really want to try out a lot of stuff, actually I would recommend doing so in Osaka, for 2 reasons. First of all, there's a lot of famous and popular Japanese food originating in Osaka, like takoyaki or okonomiyaki, for example. You also have Dotonbori, like a huge street or big market where you can buy very fresh food, even like wagyu beef or fubu, like the poisonous fish. You can taste
Right.
Be careful about that, but in overall, you can taste a lot of food over there in Osaka in a very special quality, and it's a bit cheaper than, for example, in Tokyo. Like this is a on a
Right.
tendency. Food is cheaper in Osaka than in Tokyo. Or did I not remember that correctly? I would say so, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So when I get stuffed, at least your wallet might not be as empty as maybe in other places.
And it's also like with food in Japan, I don't know. So when I think about Germany and I think about arriving in a new city, like I don't associate the general area around the station to be like high quality food or anything.
Mhm.
I have had a completely opposite experience in Japan. Like even
Oh.
just again, I just have to keep talking about Osaka. I'm sorry. But like even just the big train stations, when you go underground, they have a lot of restaurants. Just outside of Osaka Station, the main one is like a big electronics store that has like 2 floors just filled with restaurants, and
Oh.
all of them are great. It's just, it's incredible. Like, a lot of Japanese people care so much about, just the quality of the food, and it's always an experience. Like even more so when it's your first or second time traveling there. But to be honest, even though I've been there a lot of times and like I do a lot of Japanese cooking at home, it's just always different when you're in Japan. There's just something that adds that level of magic to it. Just makes it taste better.
Indeed, I wholesomely agree to that. And yeah, like okay, I haven't met so far had any bad situations when it came to Japan and food, because that's actually a takeaway. I got like whether you go in like a fancy restaurant or like in a like small izakaya in the cellar of like a big building or something like this. Um, there's always it's always just the quality was good, and it was of course very tasty as well. So that was quite the experience for me, because you still gotta watch out here in Europe. Like there go the best restaurant places to eat, I guess. But in Germany, in Japan, no matter where you went, it was tasty and delicious.
Yeah, I mean, I have been to places in Japan, like there's there's like 24-hour curry chains or something,
Oh,
and
Coco curry.
they like they're not on the same level as like other restaurants, depending on like, I don't know, but like if I go to if I go to have curry at 4 a.m., I am not going to need it to be a 5-star restaurant kind of deal.
Well, that's true.
But you can't tell the difference between something out of the convenience store and a restaurant, of course. But I still love just picking up dinner at a convenience store sometimes. And
Yeah.
I've never once had a food experience that was actually bad in any way.
Oh, so yeah, that's definitely the
Well,
thing.
I have
Is yeah?
I have one experience. Well, it's the problem wasn't that the food was bad. The problem was that it was too much food. So I did a homestay sort of thing, and there was just this nice older lady. She was a retired Japanese teacher, so like a teacher of Japanese as a foreign language, and she was just so happy to have someone over who wanted to learn more Japanese and everything. But she made so much food for me, and I was like, I don't want to be rude, but my stomach is really starting to hurt. I just how so yeah, a lot of Japanese people can be very proud of their culture, their food culture, and their hospitality, of course. So be careful.
Is it expensive to have food in Japan? Like, is food expensive over there?
um I think people say it's very expensive, but I don't actually agree. Like, it depends. You gotta know where you do your shopping or you're eating out. Like, I think one important thing is that they don't do tipping in restaurants. So the
Ah,
price that
yeah.
you see on the menu is just what you pay. That's a huge difference. Like, I guess we do tipping here in Europe, yeah, but I don't know if you've been to North America.
Yes.
But that's like, yeah, like it's even worse because there's more pressure to give like a certain percentage. Whereas I think in Germany it's often like, oh, if you pay like if the price is 19 euros, you give them 20 or something. You just kind of round it up. But
Yeah.
so that pressure just doesn't exist in Japan. And I think like it depends. If you do all your uh drinks and food shopping at a convenience store, that's going to be more expensive than a supermarket.
Mm.
So I think if you just go to one of those, it's not too different from Germany, I don't think.
Oh. Yeah, I would agree on that because and I also wanted to ask this question because I think it's a common, I wouldn't say misconception, but I think people might think of Japanese food as expensive because maybe, for example, people associate with sushi over here, and sushi might
Mm-hmm.
be more on the expensive side when you go eating out. But you can
Mm.
eat for $10 extremely tasty ramen or udon soup or even tempuras at some point,
Mm-hmm.
and you will have a great meal like in any place you go, and it's maybe $10 or so, which is at least from a German perspective not too different. I mean, sure, other countries it might be even cheaper, or for them it might be more expensive. But from a German perspective, it's more or like the same, I would
Mm-hmm.
say. So,
Yeah.
mm.
I just saw in the chat that because we're talking about food, that like cheese can be very different in Japan.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And yeah, it's like stuff like, I think fruit and things like that can be more expensive. And
yeah,
like cheese is not quite the same as in Europe, but that's so it's not even necessarily a money thing, but it's also like, well, Japan is an island nation,
yeah.
and especially here in Germany, we have access to so much like different types of food all around us. So yeah, that's a difference. Sometimes I do miss things that I can have in Germany, but to be honest, when I'm in Japan, I'm just so happy with Japanese food. I don't really think about it that much.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, some kind of trope that the Germans do is like, well, the bread in Germany is kind of better than everywhere else. I don't know, but I do really enjoy Japanese bakeries. It's actually one of my favorite
Mhm.
things to do and try out. Yeah, bakeries over there because they have so much amazing stuff there. Sure, it's not like the typical bread that you get in Germany. It's usually
Mhm.
softer, it's sweeter. However, I do like it. And my God, where else can you get like cute penguin styled little buns, or like bunny styled, or in Okinawa I got like little melon pan turtles or little whales.
Oh,
Come
so
on,
cute.
I love it. This
Yeah.
is so great.
Yeah, I am a complete sucker for like cute things and sweet food. So I'm really happy with like pastries in Japan. Like I just love melon pan. So most of my like 9 out of 10 days in Japan, my breakfast is just melon pan out of the convenience store.
Same
I'm
for
not even
me.
gonna lie.
Yeah, it is just very tasty. So, also by the
Hmm.
way, if you go to Düsseldorf in Germany, at least there you can also get very tasty melon pan. Um,
Yes.
and also there's actually Japanese bakeries in there, which is one of
Yes,
the many
that's true.
reasons why even
And
Düsseldorf
like
is
the
amazing.
yeah, like the melon pan you can get in those bakeries, like that is just 100% exactly the same as in Japan.
Yeah,
So definitely get it.
huge shout out over there.
Ah,
Ah, so
and Düsseldorf is just a great place to be for a Japan lover.
absolutely, if you're living somewhere in, let's say, Central Europe and have difficulties to hop on a plane to go all the way to Japan, well, I guess Düsseldorf's kind of your next best choice.
Mm.
At least when it comes to food, or when it comes to have some idea about Japanese infrastructure, like bookstores or stuff like this. So, which is also why DoKomi is being held in Düsseldorf. So, guess that makes sense.
Yeah. But yeah, that's probably the best German stop for like authentic Japanese food and like there's also like Asian grocery stores and everything. So
Mhm.
definitely worth it.
Absolutely. So we have talked a lot about food now. So
Yes.
how to get around? Like there, do you recommend like going by car, by train? How do you get around in Japan?
Ah, I'm not sure I would recommend getting like getting a rental car is I think getting easier because they have more service that's automated and in English and everything. But I don't really recommend it unless you go unless you know you're going to need it. Like if you're going to be in Tokyo or like another big city, the trains are so great. Trains or buses. Sometimes, like in Kyoto, for instance, I've taken a lot of buses to certain locations. Um, like I think if you're going at this from like a German perspective or other countries that I'm not quite sure about right now, you might think, oh, is the infrastructure going to be reliable? Yes, it is. Trains or just general public transit in Japan is incredible compared to what I know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's just I don't know, like for me, because so right now it's pretty okay. Like where I live now, public transportation is all right, but so I used to be from like a really small town, and it's just like I was lucky to have a train leaving from there a couple of times a day. So it's just if you're in Tokyo or Osaka or something, you don't even really have to plan. Like if you're in some place in Tokyo, you're like, oh, I want to go to Akihabara later. You don't have to plan. You just go to the train station. Like you wait for the next one to pop up. Like it is really easy. Like yeah, exactly. Like in the bigger stations, everything's written in English. So even if you don't know Japanese, it's pretty easy to navigate, I think, in the bigger parts. The smaller towns, depends.
Indeed. So yeah, indeed. Getting a rental car, I mean, getting an international driver's license and everything, yeah, that's kind of something you have to watch out for. And indeed, for most parts, the train really cuts it out if you want to get around like the big cities or just from one part of the country to another. Would you recommend a Japan Rail Pass for a travel?
Yeah, that depends on your plans for travel. Like I think there are a lot of like calculators online by now where you can enter the cities you want to go to with like on what days, and the site will actually tell you if it's worth it getting the rail pass or if it's a waste of money. So
that's great.
yeah, definitely. I think I'm not sure what sites exactly offer that right now, but it's usually pretty easy to find on Google. So if you have an idea, and if you really want to go to many different cities on the same trip, definitely look into that. If you're only going to be, like, for example, if you're saying, no, I only want to go to Tokyo and Osaka, it's probably overkill, and it's probably better to just, take one night bus or something. But yeah, there's a lot of, because tourism is so huge in Japan, they have a lot of resources by now to help international travelers just make the perfect plan. So definitely do some research if that's what you want to do.
Very good. Very good. One time where I do actually would recommend considering getting a car at some point. For example, outer islands, like for example, if you go to Okinawa, which is also, if people in the chat don't know about Okinawa yet, it's kind of the Japanese Hawaii. And it's like if you like beaches and southern flair, but also love Japan, this is the place to go. It's like a mixture of both cultures. And wait, not Hawaiian culture, but it's kind of Hawaiian style if you would compare it for like a style of vacation, beaches and sea and everything. It certainly helped to have a car back there to get around the island. And a big shout out here to DoKomi organizer Benny, who was actually able to drive safely and good over there, and made us discover amazing places. So yeah, if you go like to areas who are a bit more remote in many ways, then it might make sense to also have a car for that. But for like the main islands in Japan, I would probably prefer to use the train system and public transport. However, one big advice: never ever try to meet up at a central station like Tokyo or Tokyo Main Station or Shinjuku Station. If you wanna try to meet there, you wouldn't like the result. I almost missed Shinkansen to Kyoto because of that, and I just got into the train like barely last second. And I was so stressed out because we tried to meet at Tokyo Station, and it's just impossible. It's just impossible.
Yeah, the first time I went to Kyoto, it was to meet up with a friend, and I didn't have so I didn't have any pocket Wi-Fi or anything, and I couldn't really communicate. So the day before, we said, "Oh, let's meet at the station at like 12 or something." And then I got there and I realized, there's a lot of exits.
Yes.
Where are we meeting up? We did end up finding each other, but it was very difficult.
Yeah, so maybe meet at a hotel or like a restaurant or a specific place and then go together to the station. Yes. Very important tip. Very important tip. Yeah. So maybe as we also have only not even 10 minutes left. So which places do you still want to discover? Like what what's still ahead of you?
Hokkaido, definitely. For
The winter?
sure. That's yeah, definitely. I like the cold. I like it a lot. So that's definitely because usually I go to Japan in summer. But now that my schedule is a bit more flexible, I think the next time it's safe to travel, I'll take a winter trip to Hokkaido. That's still on my bucket list. Definitely a dream of mine.
Oh, I like that. And also,
If any, yeah. Oh, sorry. I was curious if you have like any concrete plans for like your next trip, because I know you're also dying to go to Japan again.
I am. However, it really depends on the pandemic situation.
Yeah.
Maybe if it's possible, like I would love to by the end of the year. Hopefully, I don't know if that's even realistic, but okay, this would be kind of winter time by then, so maybe it would be like more a general visit again. But maybe Hokkaido indeed as well, because it's also a region where I have not been yet. And also maybe one of the most important aspects. In Japan, it's still, for example, very warm by the end of September, October, maybe even the beginning of November, while it's getting already cold over here in Germany, or can be quite cold already. But in Japan, November can still be rather very sunny, very warm. Then in December it starts to get a bit colder, and then January, February definitely it gets cold. But so even if you like plan out to come a bit later or not in the middle of the summer time, then it still has amazing weather. Summer is very hot, especially August.
Yes.
Hot and humid. So you gotta prepare for that if you want to go in the summer.
Yeah. Like if you go in the summer, okay, this might sound weird, but like be careful not to catch a cold because Japan has so much air conditioning. So if you walk into a convenience store, you're gonna start freezing, and then you go back out into the heat, and this can be really tough on your body if you're not used to it, I think. So be careful with that.
Yeah, absolutely. But which is why I also I would like to go to Hokkaido as well. And I would love to visit a few places like more rural places like and some of the islands like the Rabbit Island, Fox Island, stuff like this. Because I've never been there yet. And
Yeah.
I would like to return to Okinawa one day, but not just for the main island because we've been only on the main island back then. But there are also, for example, the Miyako or Miyakojima Islands. Yeah, I think Miyakojima, so the Miyako Islands, which are even a bit more southern than the main island Naha. However, I want to go diving there. I want to learn to dive just to be able to dive there in this beautiful seas. There's tropical islands down there with lots of Japanese culture attached. So, although of course I know that Okinawa also has its own culture and that got migrated into Japan, but having the mixture of Japan and tropical styles added to that, I love that. I want to go there again. I miss it so much.
Right? I'm travel sick again.
Our chance will come, hopefully.
Yes,
Hopefully.
yes, for
Everyone's
sure.
chance.
It's still a bit rough right now, but maybe next year. This year might be a little bit early, but I'm confident that next year, the yearly Japan travel can continue.
Absolutely. Do you think it will be more expensive in the next years to
That's that's what I'm wondering. You know, they might even have incentives to make it a little, making it a little cheaper to get people to travel again if they're a little hesitant. But it might also be that everyone's just immediately, going to start booking flights again. So maybe it's more expensive. I'm not sure. I hope it doesn't get more expensive. Just stays at the same level, maybe.
Me too, me too. At least, or incentives would definitely something I would be well cherishing for personal reasons. But then again, yeah, this really depends on. It's a tough time right now, and I hope Japan wouldn't have changed too much. I'm fearing a bit that maybe some of the shops or restaurants that I'd like
Yeah.
to see are maybe closed in the meantime. I don't know. It's difficult for me to estimate what has been going on over the past year in Japan. But I hope for the best. I wish us and the Japanese all the best for that. It's a difficult time.
I hope everyone's coming out of this okay. Like, yeah, especially the smaller stores and everything. Support small local stores. Go into the alleyways. Go into the small restaurants. They're so good.
Absolutely. Oh, as we are, of course, also a convention event, so to say, for DoKomi, Germany's largest anime Japan Expo. Click on the link, hit the subscribe. Just kidding. Follow them. Have you been ever to one of the comic conventions or anime conventions in Japan, like Anime Japan, Comic Cat, Comic Fiesta, Comitia, for example? Have you been
So
to?
not to the super big ones, not like as an attendee, but I've been to some smaller fan events. Because it's because Japanese fandoms are incredible. Like they'll make events just for one specific series or something.
Yes.
So that's that, but also that might require more Japanese knowledge. So it can be, but just generally, it can be a little difficult to navigate your way through that. But yeah, definitely worth checking out. It is quite an experience. There's so many like doujinshi that people make and everything. It's just do it and bring a lot of money.
Yes. Oh, that's the most important tip you have to bring.
Oh my God, money.
Yes. Bring enough cash at hand.
Yes.
You will
Yes.
spend more than you plan. It's a given. It's just a
That's
given.
for sure. You don't want to be in Akiba or like Denden Town for the Osaka equivalent and not have enough money to buy the merchandise and everything that you want. Trust us.
Yes, absolutely. You want that. You want that. And
Yes.
maybe I don't know. It's now. It might sound like a very big lump sum to at least prepare like 2 or 3K for like your first trip to Japan. Like in general, even my assistant is nodding at me heavily. So I know it sounds like, or it is a lot of money. But this should get you covered at least in a good position, like for flight and accommodation, and that you have enough spare cash for whatever you want to do there, and you will kind of maybe buy a bit more than you expected, go to more restaurants, or want to try out this museum that you didn't know before but just discovered over there.
Yeah.
So be prepared, please, to enjoy your stay.
Yes.
So thank you so much for these amazing insights, Karen. I'm really glad you could share your knowledge today with us, your kohai.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Please let us know where we can find you. What's your next plans?
Yes. Okay, I'm going to try the command in the chat and see if it works. Yes, there are my links. They just popped up. So you can find me on Twitter. You can find me on YouTube. I mostly do stuff in German and then randomly respond in Japanese or English if there are people in the chat. If you want this type of content, like a little Japanese class, German class, anything like that, cultural things with Japan, Germany, the rest of the world, do let me know on YouTube or on Twitter. Then I can plan more English streams and stuff like that. So that would be cool. Other than that, that's not really. I don't have any concrete plans right now. So yeah, I'm just gonna be watching the rest of DigiKomi and see what happens after it. Because I think this is gonna bring a lot of people together and help them discover new VTubers. So yeah, that's gonna be very interesting.
Amazing. So please follow Karen. She's an amazing VTuber.
Thank you.
And you can learn a lot from her, as we did today. So I would like to announce the next program point. After we're gonna get another short break for the to set everything up. And as I will be gone for a bit, I would like to let you know about the next two program points, which will be a concert by Daisy, or aka Inochi. She's an absolutely amazing German singer, anisong singer. She has performed at DoKomi many times. She has an absolutely astonishingly beautiful voice. Please check her out. She has prepared a concert for us, which we will show you next. And after that, we will see Lumi again, as being the same kohai of Dr. Ines, an extremely crazy and fun German VTuber. She does content in English all the time as well. She's a sheep VTuber, and she's gonna teach us about the men's and the women's and the differences between the men's and the women's. It's gonna get crazy. If you know Ines, you know that you're in for a ride. If you have not seen her before, you're gonna love it. Trust me. Check it out. It's amazing. I wish you lots of fun with the next next hour of program that we prepared for you. With next in line, Daisy, aka Inochi, and after that, Ines and Lumi collaborating in an insane classroom. Have lots of fun and see you again very soon. Bye bye.
Yeah.